I cannot even tell you how excited I am to be sitting with one of the top water experts in the world. Now you're like, water expert? Why do I care about that? Let me tell you. I first discovered him on the Skinny Confidential His and Hers podcast, and I was blown away by his mind on everything from how bad water is in America to how our water and food situation in this country all play into the Great Reset. Now, that is something that you and I know a lot about. After getting his astronautical and mechanical engineering degree, he pioneered reverse osmosis technology, which removes toxic chemicals from your tap water. This is literally one of the best water purification methods out there. And his goal is to improve our immune systems with minerals, since the water and the food that we consume today is almost entirely devoid of them. He believes that that is the single biggest contributor that we're seeing in the decline of human health, and has created a way to get those minerals back into our bodies. We are going to be talking about everything from water to big food to EMFs, international water scientist and co-founder of Water and Wellness, providing every home with toxin-free and mineral-rich water. Please welcome Robert Slovak on The Spillover. Are you enemy number one of Big Pharma?
I'm enemy number one of a lot of agencies and organizations. Big Pharma is one of the heads of the list, but industrial farming, all the people that are creating microwave communications, Wi-Fi. And I would say I'm the biggest public enemy number one of toxic government, which is pretty much the whole world right now.
You and I have that in common.
I bet we do.
And that's what I like about you.
And that's what I like about you.
See, and every episode that I've heard you do on other podcasts, I was drawn to you because you're an expert on water science and health and wellness and all these different topics. And so I'm listening, and I could just tell immediately, I said, oh, I have so much in common with you. You're very awake to so much that is happening behind the scenes. And so I knew that we would get along.
My brother and I did spend some very interesting years with the intelligence agencies, and this gave me insights that I carry with me till today. Perhaps the biggest surprise to me is how all of this originated probably 5,000 years ago.
And you're an expert specifically on water, but I mean, you're an expert on a lot of things. You're a scientist. So all of these different subjects that we're going to get into today, I love getting your perspective on them. And one of those things, obviously, we have to start with the water. I have been telling my audience to avoid tap water like the plague. Why should we be avoiding tap water in America?
Only perhaps for its natural contaminants and synthetic contaminants that are put in as a result of, one, the environment, as a result of treating the water, such as aluminum. Aluminum compounds are used to treat water, and so you get a little bit of that coming in. And there are things we have to kill the bacteria in water, or else there'd be plagues, and real plagues, not fake plagues. So things, you have to kill the bacteria to make it safe for people. Chlorine has been used faithfully since 1913. Chlorine's not a big deal toxin, okay? But they didn't realize until recently that it reacts to form disinfection byproducts.
And we're drinking this.
And we are drinking those. And we didn't know these disinfection byproducts because we couldn't even measure them 50 years ago. Another thing that compounds the problem is that because of water shortages and efficiencies, wastewater, meaning sewage water, is often recycled. It's getting to be a more popular thing. So a giant plant treats the wastewater conventionally, and they disinfect it with chlorine, and of course you still can't drink it, but then they run it through reverse osmosis and microfiltration, and then they inject it back into the ground through injection wells in the Santa Ana riverbed, and then it just kind of joins nature again, which is a really good idea. And then wells in Orange County pick up that water, maybe months later in a way, because you don't know where it spreads. and it's reused as the tap water.
And is that a good thing or bad thing?
We learn that there are other subtle things. We find pharmaceuticals in the water, endocrine disruptors in the water, plasticizers in the water. And so there are chemicals that maybe everyone's recycling program doesn't get everything out. Water was intended to come to us via nature, not via a pipe. So
And
that disturbs water.
So let's stop there, because the pipes that our tap water is traveling through, that right in and of itself is a huge problem. The state of the pipes, right?
There are problems like in Flint, Michigan, where the pipes coatings and so on contain lead. Okay, so that is like a no-brainer. Okay, children are damaged, neurological system has been damaged by lead, but that's a very, very small percentage of the cases. And maybe only a few other areas, Washington, D.C., and a few other cities have some lead pipes left. But in general, pipes are either concrete or plastic or iron.
Okay, so it's not a big deal if the water that we're drinking, the water that we're bathing in, showering in, is coming through plastic or anything?
Not really.
Okay.
It's not ideal because all these things have a little bit. All this stuff changes your life, but not in a month, not in a year, not in 10 years, but a lifetime. You might lose 10 years of age because of water that is even from iron pipes, concrete pipes, or plastic pipes. I mean, it's a factor.
Is the tap water that we just established has all of these pharmaceuticals in them and different chemicals that we don't ideally want in our water, is that water also being used on our crops to grow our food?
Yes.
How problematic is that?
Some places it's probably problematic, and wastewater is also used to some degree to treat crops. But the real protection there is the fact that the bacteria in the soil solve a lot of that problem. They're like a little treatment plant. But what's happened to industrialized mechanical farming? Not good.
So the question is, what is reverse osmosis? Because you helped create that. Who needs it? Who doesn't need it?
As far as the list of contaminants that can be found in potential drinking water supplies, the EPA controls and legislates that about 90 to 100 of these they legislate. They know the other 270 contaminants of concern, okay? If they put all those on a list, we could not afford to buy the water. No one could.
Right.
If you had to regulate 200 to 300 contaminants, and remember, as a homeowner, you're only using 1.5% of the water coming to your home to consume. What would you want to treat and spend the money to treat the other 98% for? So that brought in the era, my era, of point of use water treatment, meaning you only treat what you're going to drink and consume in food preparation. Do you understand?
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. It's inexpensive. The only problem is when you become a consumer and buy these devices, it's not regulated. No one's checking on it. I talk to people all day long. Hey, when did you change your filter? Oh, honey, when did we change our filter? Oh, geez, they think it was when our son was born.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
Okay. And that's how it goes. And that's the only downside. So we have to make consumers more responsible. And there are, neat little gadgets and with the computer error in your phone. Oh, it's time to change your filter. All these things. That is before we do away with phones. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Because you're
Which
going to
is
say the
another
EMF,
thing.
so get rid of your phone.
Without question.
Okay.
If you and your family are on a municipal water supply in the United States, you need to have a water system. There may be some exceptions. A water purification system that can remove every category of contaminants from heavy metals to pharmaceuticals to pesticides to solvents, all the things that are in the water.
And which water filtration system do you recommend?
Okay. 2 categories. Okay. One category is distillation plus activated carbon. This can remove every category of contaminant, not every level of it. It can't bring it down to zero. And it's not necessary because we don't live in a zero world, okay? Or else we'd be living in a bubble. And then the second option, a more modern one, a more consumer-friendly one, is reverse osmosis plus activated carbon.
Okay, and this is what you had a hand in creating.
Yes, and this was in 1971 that I went from being an astronautical engineer with the military industrial complex and to, this water thing I'm fascinated, and I was getting into health. And my brother was a quantum physicist and a chemist, and I was an engineer, and we just, in our home in Corona del Mar, California, just started to experiment. And we met the people. We didn't invent the process of reverse osmosis. That was known for decades. The process is possible to remove all the contaminants. And then we went on, we made vending machines, we made hemodialysis for hospitals, laboratory water, and perhaps my funnest one was we came up with the concept that are used in almost every car wash. You guys will appreciate it. Spot-free rinse.
What? You created that?
Yes.
Hold on a minute. Do you just love Shark Tank?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I probably could have sold that to Shark Tank.
But I mean, when you see these people, I mean, you've come up with all these amazing ideas. I'm just thinking like, man, you must love that show and seeing like this person has a bogus idea. Or
but
this
that was
is great.
the easiest thing. It's just RO water. If you guys have an RO system at home and you wash your car with your soap and your mitt and all that stuff and rinse it off, and here, and as you know, if you just let it dry, there'd be all little white spots on your car and so on. But if you just took like 4 or 5 buckets of RO water and just threw it on the roof and let it run down, just walk away.
Look at that.
It'll dry. And so when I presented the first idea of spot-free rinse at the International Car Wash Convention in Las Vegas, 3 people showed up at my talk.
Oh, I'm sure,
Because everybody said, hey, water that doesn't leave spots, guy.
That's impossible.
It's like, who are you fooling? You think we're a bunch of dummies? And so that was just perfect. And then the next year, maybe 5 people bought a system. They were taking a chance because car wash owners are pretty rich. And then the next year, it was standing room only. And now everybody has it. Almost no one, maybe Jeff Bezos or something. I mean, there's a lot of those. And we installed the first one in Newport Beach, a whole home reverse osmosis system.
Was it a celebrity?
The first one wasn't a celebrity. If I recall, he owned a Mexican food production company.
Oh, okay.
But he lived on Lido Isle in Newport Beach, and he had made it. And he wanted the best of everything, and we put it in. And I realized it's not the right thing to do, because piping in homes is not compatible with water that pure. So you have to do modifications to it, requires constant service. It's not for everybody.
Someone is buying a water filtration system for their home.
Yes.
Which companies do you love and trust?
There are hundreds that, depending upon what their claims are, if this is what you want, their claims, they've been tested, that's a good company. And there are hundreds in the lists. My brother and I were very instrumental to the market of, we started with under sink reverse osmosis systems, okay? We installed tens of thousands, and we sold hundreds of thousands worldwide, okay? Our company was eventually bought by 3M Corporation, who still really sells our original designs. However, when I became more involved in health, and the microbiome became one of the big issues in health, meaning the bacteria that naturally exists in your body, okay, 5 to 8 pounds of it, and realize that runs the show in a way, okay? You've probably heard this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And okay. So it runs the show.
The gut health stuff is fascinating.
I mean, it makes so many chemicals and hormones, et cetera, that are essential. When I realized that the new designs that were coming out, probably from the 80s on, the storage tank that is under your sink, it's typically white, blue, or black, becomes an incubator for microbes.
Wait. So we think that we're getting all this poison and crap out of our water, and we might actually be poisoning ourselves worse?
Poisoning, I don't think is the right word, but upsetting your system microbiologically. When I started out in making and designing RO systems, membranes made 5 gallons a day, and everybody ran out of water. And I said, this is great, because you are starting with new water. You're refreshing the storage tank. Bacteria can't grow this fast, so it's great. And we didn't even get into the bacteria thing until later on, 10 years later, we did studies, and I thought, holy mackerel. So now that same membrane that's in little systems like this makes 50 to 75 gallons a day, and nobody uses that much bottled water or that much drinking water, so that the tank never gets emptied. Okay, the RO fills it in just seconds. If you take a glass, it's filled 5 minutes later again. So nobody ever drains the tank. So the bacteria just go, oh, this is great. This is like a resort. So when I was asked to speak at an autism conference, I mean, which is
do you think drinking water, do you think that contaminants in our drinking water plays a part in more severe cases of autism?
Absolutely. When I was asked to speak, I go, wow, okay. Children with autism have microbiome problems. Okay, it's a major part of autism. And I said, okay, I'm going to be changing my life, my career, my colleagues, and my friends by what I'm about to disclose. And I spoke at this first conference probably 10 or 12 years ago. And I said, and there's 200, mostly mothers go to those things, okay? And 200 women in the audience, and Robert Slovak, inventor of reverse osmosis, is going to tell us that these RO systems we bought are right on, and we did the right thing. And I said, you cannot give your child with autism water from your under-sink reverse osmosis system.
I'm imagining they were like, security, get him out of here immediately.
Security, get him out. No, not quite. And I explained why, how, and it was like, and I said, this is something that I really fought, and now that autism is real and growing and so on, this is going to be a factor. So I gave them some outs. I said, I know all of you can't go out and just buy a new system and so on. So I was always a stickler for sanitizing that tank. But as you know, no one did it. Dealers didn't do it, et cetera. Some percentage did, but not enough. And so I put the warning that you have to drain your tank. If you have a child with autism, you have to drain your tank. One, get it sanitized, and then from here on out, you are going to drain this tank every night. You're going to make fresh water every day, because you've never drained it.
Because what's interesting? You are the first person that I've ever heard say that our drinking water could play a part in more severe cases of autism. I know about the food dyes. I know about the seed oils. I know all of that. I've never heard anyone bring up drinking water. Do you know what a canon event is on social media? It's something weird and unavoidable and unchangeable in your life growing up that basically every person has to go through to become who they are. And if you are a millennial, using apricot scrub as a middle or high schooler on your face was a canon event. I mean, we might as well have put our face through a car windshield to get the same effect. My producer just told me in my ears, wait, I'm a guy and I have used the apricot scrub. I'm telling you, it's just a millennial thing. Like, if you use this face wash, it was your Canon event. What is crazy is it came out that it was basically illegal, and I was like, oh, that tracks. Totally unfazed. We all knew. Exfoliation is super important, even for dry skin types. The trick is making sure that it's gentle with rounded beads, nothing with jagged edges, and still super hydrating. The Nimi Skincare Vitamin C Cleanser accomplishes this beautifully. It's packed with powerful antioxidants like vitamins A, C, and E to tackle environmental stressors and free radicals with gentle beads dispersed evenly within a hydrating, cleansing face wash to give a gorgeous glow. It won't dry you out, but it will help reduce some of that textured blackhead buildup that we can get after a few days, especially if you're a makeup wearer, okay? And I am. A lot of makeup every day for camera. If you're super oily, you can probably use this cleanser every day, no problem. I like to use it every 2 days or so as a dry skin type of girl. Nimi Skincare is a conservative and Christian modern skincare brand with timeless values. Support building a parallel conservative economy by shopping brands like Nimi. Go to NimiSkincare.com, use code Alex Clark for 10% off. That's NIMI skincare.com with code Alex Clark for 10% off, or click the link in the description. Okay, so somebody that's balling on a budget, operating on a budget, they don't want to do a whole water filtration system, but maybe they're like a single person like me who just wants an on-the-counter, something that sits there that I can fill my water bottle up. What is the best on-the-counter system?
I told them if you can't and don't want to change your under-sink RO system, I recommend a tank, a countertop system, which I had selected and assisted, called AquaTru. It's sold by our water and wellness company. It fits on your counter, and you can clean to your heart's content that reservoir. The best under-sink RO system that I know of right now, from a standpoint of being a new design with a new kind of tank and new materials making the tank, is called the WOW.
The WOW?
WOW, W-O-W. It stands for water on water, okay? My brother and I had a hand in the creation of this system like a decade and a half ago. And now it is our colleague now owns and runs the company that's the best. But a new trend is coming called ultraviolet disinfection. You know, ultraviolet
light
kills bacteria. It's
Yes.
used all over the place, right? It disinfects water. I mean, cities use ultraviolet to disinfect water also. Japan only uses ultraviolet light. You pass water through the light, it kills virus and microbes, everyone. And it's called UVC, LED ultraviolet disinfection units. And they're available to our industry. You don't go out and buy one. You buy one that's built into your system. And this is just starting.
Okay.
This is just the beginning. But without a UV system on your RO system, and I still would drain the tank very frequently, I think the WOW has done it the best possible today.
All right, so you and I have plastic bottled water here that we're drinking out of. Is plastic bottled water really just tap water?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so it is better?
I'd say any major brand uses reverse osmosis plus activated carbon to produce their water. Most of them say it. Nestle, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, all those brands use reverse osmosis. And it's just to make it the same all over. I mean, it's not just to purify it. It's to make it the same. So when you go to Venice,
another country,
it tastes the same as New York.
Have you heard of liquid death?
Yes.
Is that a scam? Is it better to be drinking out of a can for your water than a plastic bottle?
If a plastic bottle is the latest BPA, BPS-free, recyclable PET, let's say it has very low contaminant levels, that should not be a problem. But my big argument is, listen, you live in a house, an apartment, you have a car. The plasticizers given off by your carpet, your wallpaper, your paint, your plastic appliances, and your car. The car is like a tomb of plasticizers, okay?
I'm driving a coffin every day.
Especially you are driving a coffin every day. I am driving a coffin. And just like bottled water, the hotter it is out there, the more that plasticizer just oozing out of the plastic.
This is my big question for you. You're saying bottled water isn't that bad compared to tap water. That is definitely worse. It's still a step up to have bottled water. But
let's say the quality of that water before it's put in the bottle.
Okay, sure.
And then there's things that can degrade it.
Okay, so speaking of the degrading though, if our bottled water is being transferred to our grocery stores in a hot semi-trailer, boiling in the summer heat, which
or
we're
coming
in summer,
from Fiji in the hold of a ship.
Yes, then how many chemicals are coming out of the plastic then and getting into our water?
It depends upon the plastic. I don't know the numbers from that situation. I'm sure I can find them, but nothing compared to what you are exposed to every day from living in your home, apartment, appliances, carpet, and car.
If your water bottle is simmering and just sitting on your nightstand for days and days and days, is it a bad idea to drink out of that water bottle later when it's all there's condensation and stuff?
No.
No difference?
No.
Okay.
And the other thing besides the chemicals that we typically call plasticizers, there's also the newer issue of microplastics, right? Very small nanoparticles of the plastic itself. Okay? The plastic is oxidizing inside the bottle, and little particles are coming into the water. Okay? They can't be filtered out. They're nanoparticles. And no one really knows the long-term health effects of microplastics. I think it's very minimal compared to my personal opinion. With no research, it's just intuitively in my science mind, it's going to not be a big deal unless this thing gets like uber heated. Okay, then you may be shedding just so many. Once nothing, but if you do this constantly, microplastics could be a problem.
Because people are very aware of microplastics and we're trying to limit our plastic intake on a daily basis, everybody's buying Stanleys. But you do not think that a Stanley or any type of stainless steel water bottle is any better than just drinking regular old bottled plastic water?
Are you putting words in my mouth?
I'm asking you, is that true?
It could be true, but it is not necessarily true.
Explain.
It has to do with who made and what they made that stainless out of. You think, oh, it's stainless. Well, what grade of stainless? I would say probably 95 or maybe 99% of stainless water bottles are made in China. Okay? China buys scrap metal from every country. They will take it all. Okay? And if that metal is containing 100 other substances, it's going to be in your bottle. If that Stanley bottle, you keep it in your car, it gets hot, so on and so on, those metals are going to be coming out into your water. It remains to be resolved.
So the best case scenario is find a stainless steel water bottle that says made in America.
I think it's better to find a glass bottle and forget about it.
Okay, so drinking out of glass, because I've gotten glass straws, I've gotten glass containers to put my iced chai tea in every morning. So that is the best case scenario?
I think it's the best case scenario.
Alkaline water. Big trend. Everybody's going to the grocery store and buying alkaline water. Does that get a thumbs up or thumbs down from you?
It is a double thumbs down.
Why?
What do you think it does?
I don't even know. I'm told it's like this amazing thing.
But
get alkaline.
We're a
balancing
culture,
your pH
we're
or something.
We're a culture that bows to trends, okay? Oh my God, everybody, see it everywhere, alkaline water. I was the first person to come out against alkaline water. Not just against it. There's nothing wrong with drinking alkaline water.
But it just does nothing.
It's just you're paying for nothing. The pH of water, and this is what I teach my audiences, is irrelevant in human physiology. They sold the idea that alkaline water alkalizes the body. So the best thing you can do if you want to spend money for that alkaline water is please put like a half a teaspoon of baking soda in it. Now, you will have alkalizing water. There's I believe they sent you a little tub of something called active pH restore.
Yes, I don't know what that is.
That alkalizes the body.
Okay, and this is something that you sell. So let me explain to the audience. Robert was so kind, sent me like a big care package of like amazing products that he endorses. Says, this is good, take this, which we're going to get to some of them that I love, that I do love and I have tried. But something I haven't tried is this box that you sent me. So you sent me something about pH.
Yes.
And you sell this on your website, waterandwellness.com,
right.
Correct? What is it?
It's a powder of mineral compounds that add alkalinity to water, and that alkalinity alkalizes or helps keep the body alkalized. I want your audience to know, not everybody's going to do this, there is something called PROL. It's an acronym for potential renal acid load. You should look up a PROL chart on the internet, and it lists every food from butter to Budweiser, okay? Maybe butter to Modelo.
You remembered what show you're on.
So it lists every food.
Okay.
And that food has a number. If that number is negative, when one metabolizes that food, it alkalizes the body. It supports the alkalization of the body. If that food is positive, okay, that food is going to acidify the body. And this is what a true scientific nutritionist uses. Hey, they sit down with their patient and they go through, what are you eating? How many grams of broccoli? How many steaks? You blah, 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 blah. And they add up all those numbers and go, holy mackerel, your diet is acidifying to you. And you have to compensate for it or get rid of, the big steak. So that is a very useful thing. If your audience goes on it, it will be a revelation to them.
All right. So now we're going to get into your favorite territory, which is really your bread and butter. And that is, you believe that we are not getting the correct amount of minerals that we need on a day-to-day basis. What does that mean? Getting minerals. And how do we get the minerals if we're not getting them?
Every material thing is composed of the first 92 things on this chart. Okay? Everything in the universe.
He's holding a periodic table if you're listening and not watching.
Our entire body is just made out of the first 92 things here. That's it. Nothing more. So, God, if my whole body is made out of this, and everything I can see in the universe, including everything on the earth from the atmosphere down to the core, is made out of this same stuff. This stuff is important to my world and my life. Life began in the ocean. Okay? This is very important. The ocean came to the earth from comets, which were largely ice. For 100 million years, the late heavy bombardment bombarded the earth about 4.5 billion years ago and deposited what we know as the ocean. The earth was a dry place 5 billion years ago, but 4.5 billion years that changed. The earth was made out of these 92 things, and when the water came, and the water is made out of two of these things, H2O, the minerals of the earth started to dissolve in that H2O. And then, just a 500 million years later, life began. And it evolved. That life, that microbe called a prokaryote, the first microbe, started to grow. And 1 million years later, it was a sponge. And another 1 million years later, it was a little tiny coral. And then another 1 million years, it was a fish. And life stayed in the ocean, which contained all of this periodic table. So, if I may show you one thing that I didn't get to you in time.
Okay, so explain to people that are just listening what you're holding.
This is a chart showing the evolution of the earth. Okay? It starts over here when the earth was just a dry, spinning ball of this.
Of the periodic table.
Now, where this blue rectangle is, water covers the earth. And life, for the next 3 billion years, life evolved in the ocean. All this time, most of the time that Earth existed, life existed in the ocean. What happens here? Life leaves the ocean. We, human, we are this little, slightly dark brown line at the very end. We had no influence in evolution. There are creationists out there who don't buy the evolutionary story. God bless you, and that's fine. I buy the evolutionary story. In my studies, it all makes sense to me. When life left the ocean, the man who discovered, René Quinton, said the only way life could leave the ocean was to take the ocean with it. If you consider or study the 10 major electrolytes in all animals, okay, it's identical to the proportions of them in seawater. What proof?
So why is it important for us to be consuming the very minerals that we're made up of?
Everything about your and our design was based on having them.
And we're not getting that from our drinking water or our food?
Definitely not. Not here. Not us.
But our ancestors were? They got that before we had all of this industrialized food stuff?
Surely. I mean, we wouldn't have made it like us. We would have never made leaving the ocean if we had to go on a Big Mac diet, okay? Trust me. So it's just not going to work.
So you thought, I got to create something that people can take every day that's going to give them these minerals that they need.
I'm not saying you have to consume, only seawater can do it. Sea things, you have to get something that was connected with the sea because you're connected with the sea.
Okay.
And your fluid that's running around in your body is a flawed version of the ocean because the food we eat, the beverages we drink, the vegetable juice we consume doesn't have it anymore. Farming has eliminated it because it's eliminated the bacteria in the soil with artificial fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides. And the bacteria is what takes the soil. See, all this stuff is in the soil, but it's not getting in the food that we eat because the microbes are no longer there. We've killed them off. And all these new agricultural societies that are sprouting up to return to natural organic agriculture, biodynamic agriculture. I mean, they're fantastic. Kiss the ground. Audience, watch Kiss the Ground.
Why? What does it say?
It explains what I said in a much more wonderful way, much more convincing way. And Woody Harrelson's way more interesting than I am. Okay. So Kiss the Ground. It's a must.
So because it's so important that our bodies get these minerals from the sea that we are not getting from our water, we are not getting it from the food that we eat, you ended up coming across something that does provide all of these minerals that we need, and it was totally by chance. You were on a adventure in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere in Brazil.
A scientific pursuit in the remote area, yes.
And you got very, 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 very ill.
Yes.
Ended up thinking you needed to be airlifted by helicopter, and somebody in this tiny remote town in the middle of nowhere, Brazil, said, wait, I have something for you. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being these vials, isotonic and hypertonic liquid minerals, 100% pure seawater. And you didn't invent this. You came across the product, loved it so much, just like the AquaTrue. All of these different products are available on waterandwellness.com, which is your website, just because it's one place where all of these great health and wellness water products can live. But you were like, these little vials really did heal you, and you feel like helped your health when you were on the brink of possibly
No,
death?
they saved my life.
Talk about that.
Unquestionably. I didn't know anything about minerals in seawater in 2002. And this person who was working on our project, a carpenter, said, hey, this is our doctor. And this is our doctor? What are you showing me here? And so he said, we use this here in the town. There is no doctor here. This is what we used to fix people.
Little glass vials of just, it looks like water.
Yeah. And I'm going, wow, interesting. And they said, what is it? And he said, oh, it's harvested from the sea, okay? It's not just regular seawater. It's harvested from a plankton bloom that contains both phyto and zooplankton, very complex bioreactor in the ocean, very rare, and it's extracted from there. And this was created by René Quinton, who simply had a belief, a scientific belief and a conclusion that our body fluids were inherited from the ocean. And we retained its qualities. And one of the qualities that it contains the entire periodic table of the elements.
One of these vials is clear. One of these has kind of like an amber color. The amber color is called hypertonic.
No, it's the glass that's amber colored.
Oh, okay. So the glass is amber colored, and then the other liquid is called isotonic. What do both of these mean?
Okay.
Why do you buy both of these types?
Hypertonic is is exactly as it's harvested from the ocean after going through a very sophisticated pharmaceutical processing, okay? It has to be refrigerated from the moment it's harvested. It has to go through quality control. Every organism has to be filtered out of it, blah, blah, blah. So this is straight seawater, the same composition with everything processed out.
And does the hypertonic, if we get this, does this have to go in the fridge?
No.
Okay, so they can just sit on your counter.
Yep, this is the concentration of seawater. This one is diluted with spring water, a very special spring water.
The isotonic is diluted.
Yes, to the same concentration as your blood plasma. And that's isotonic. When you get an IV in the hospital of sodium chloride, it's isotonic.
And so we're supposed to wake up in the morning, and the first thing, before we eat breakfast, before we have coffee, before we put anything else in our bodies, we should be drinking these little vials.
Yes, and the right way and all that. And then when the multiple pandemics in Europe broke out, cholera, in North Africa, cholera, tuberculosis, syphilis, gastroenteritis, typhoid, influenza, et cetera, that was decimating Europe. They said, René Quinton, this stuff is really wild stuff. Can we try this on, see what it does to these patients that are dying? And it cured them of multiple diseases.
Oh, so we should have been widespread handing this out during the pandemic.
God bless what the FDA might do with spillover. But it's a fact. It's a historical fact. This became a medicine. That's it. It became a medicine.
Ideally, who should be taking this? Who should be ordering
Everyone
this?
From preconception till death. It's simply the most foundational thing one can take.
And what are you going to notice?
For human health.
What does this do for your health? You get these minerals, and then what? What are you supposed to notice?
It depends on who you are, what your diet is, etc. Somebody who is perhaps somebody from Japan who already consumes a lot of sea things may not notion much, even though Japan purchases a lot of this. But somebody from some Americans typically notice the most.
What do they notice?
Their eczema goes away. Their psoriasis is done. The modern day healing of people just from taking this.
So I've been taking it for the last couple of months, and I absolutely love it. And you just snap the little pointy glass tip off, and you just put it in your mouth. And I mean, it's like literally 2 sips. This isn't like a giant, people are drinking their huge green juices every day and stuff. This is not like a massive drink. This is like a couple drops, really. And it just tastes like salty water.
And you know what's great? You can take it and put it in your green drink.
I was going to say, so you can mix this with other things. Like you can give it to your child. You can dump it in their smoothie or something.
And put it in your bottled water because your bottled water doesn't have this.
Perfect.
And this is what water should have. So you take when you're diluting it, always use the hypertonic because this is already diluted.
But you believe that if women drink this, that they will have extraordinary babies.
Extraordinary children.
What does that mean?
It balances the entire terrain, and the terrain runs the show. It's not like, oh, yes, your hair will grow better and so on. Everything is run by the terrain, and this improves and restores and balances the terrain.
Whether you're homeschooling, unschooling, your kids are in public school, or even private, being back to school regardless means that your family is probably back to being busier than ever. Between soccer practice, co-ops, dance, science fairs, one kid punching the other kid, helping with homework, time is precious. And you don't have a lot to spare. And going to the grocery store last minute to figure out, okay, what is for dinner, that sucks on its own after a busy day. But even worse is when you find out that the beef that you're plating up is probably from China and filled with tons of chemicals you did not approve of. Well, the good news is you can take one big thing off your plate by putting great meat on it with Good Ranchers. You care about what your family eats, and so does Good Ranchers. That's why they've spent years building relationships with local farms to source the best 100% American beef, chicken, pork, and now wild-caught seafood too. The way I had an out-of-body experience with the seafood box. Yes, the best of the land and the sea can now be conveniently delivered to your door. Also, for just a couple more days, when you subscribe to any box with Good Ranchers, you're going to get 2 years of free ground beef. That is 144 free meals on Good Ranchers Tap. Back to school doesn't have to mean back to stress. Subscribe and use my code Clark for $25 off your box at goodranchers.com and get free ground beef for 2 years. That's 2 pounds of high-quality ground beef in every box for 2 years, completely free. Remember, go to goodranchers.com, use code Clark to claim $25 off, plus free ground beef for 2 years on your order of 100% American meat and seafood. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
It was normal for people to say, hey, what kind of water should we give our children with autism? So I was asked to speak at most of the autism conferences. And at that time when I spoke, it was like 1 in 59 children was being born. I think it was in North America. And now it's like 1 in 6. Some people report 1 in 6 children is autistic. And I see them constantly in the supermarket and cafes and whatever. And it's like so sad. And parents, we've gotten so used to it. Parents are just saying, well, yes, I'm going to be burdened with this my whole life.
Our fetuses are being assaulted from birth between the water that we're drinking and the foods that we're eating in this country.
And the EMF that they're exposed to. I
have had guests on this show that have been very pro-GMO, pro-Monsanto, Bayer. These companies, the reason we need GMOs, they say, is because otherwise people would starve. We don't make enough food. And you brought up a really interesting point, I thought, about the water, saying, well, we don't tell people to, get this $5,000 water filtration system. That's not possible, and people would not have water to drink. So when it comes to GMOs, do you agree or disagree that we need GMOs so that people won't starve?
No, I am not in agreement with that at all.
Why?
It's preposterous. You're controlling the insects, you're controlling the weeds, etc., by using chemicals. That is not how nature intended things to grow.
Robert, this is exactly what I bring up, and they tell me, well, there is zero evidence that GMOs have negatively impacted humanity.
I am not qualified to speak on this. I know there are books written on this, on the health effects of GMO. I'm certain that the ones I have read are very real, but I really don't know the technology of GMOs enough and its role in health issues, etc. But I do know that things like glyphosate, which is from Roundup and so on. I mean, it's like the lawsuits prove it, okay? I mean, that you can't use, they're on television. You can't use glyphosate. Stephanie Seneff of MIT is one of the world experts on glyphosate. It's like 95% of the people whose blood has been tested in the world test positive for glyphosate.
And so it's like, well, how do we even get away from this?
Go back to original farming and please watch Kiss the Ground.
Regenerative farming, regenerative agriculture.
Precisely.
Do you like that?
Absolutely regenerative farming.
I've been really looking for regenerative farmers for my eggs and different and the meat that I buy and things like that are very important to me. I would just want to make sure I'm not wasting my money.
Regenerative farming is the way, and it's largely centered about restoring the thing that makes it all work, and that's the bacteria that used to be in the soil. When you use modern mechanical farming methods, the machines that dig up the soil between crops, et cetera, they're all flawed.
Aspartame is now a carcinogen. This is what is in our Diet Coke. This is in all of these sugary drinks that we consume. And this is what blew my mind. So I did not know this till I was looking into this. Donald Rumsfeld, who was the CEO of aspartame, became part of the Reagan transition team and got to be appointed as being the new head of the FDA all these years ago. He was the person then that got to cast the vote deciding that aspartame should be allowed into the American food supply. And then when Monsanto acquired the company that owned aspartame, this guy, Donald Rumsfeld, was paid $12 million from Monsanto as like a golden handshake, basically for helping get aspartame past the safety board.
Yeah, he used to be the Secretary of Defense.
Okay, so how many food companies that we are consuming on a day-to-day basis have been given a golden handshake by the FDA, but are really poisonous?
Everyone. The revolving door game among the elite industrial companies of the world, which really started at least in the Industrial Revolution of the late 1800s when you had petroleum being discovered and the Rockefellers and all the people wanting to own medicine and change medicine and get out of everything from homeopathy to nutrition, etc. They changed and went into the modern drug industry. And that is, they paid everybody off. They sponsored and paid for all the medical schools to be built. And now we have such sophisticated means of communication and brainwashing and the toxic mainstream media. It is the poor world population is being manipulated. It's the tragedy. And they don't have the scientific background to even like, I can't take any more of this, is their conclusion. I own conspiracy theory, okay? Because I see it, because I have the ability to dig in and see what's going on, and the average person doesn't. I mean, look at Fauci, look at the CDC. I mean, it's a revolving door. One becomes, pharmaceutical company head runs the CDC guy goes to the next pharmaceutical company. I mean, it's obscene.
It's a giant love fest between big ag, big food, and big pharma.
Yes, and the world elite. I mean, you have the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab.
What does the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset have to do with the food that we eat and the water that we drink?
Because they have an influence, everything. I mean, they are a cabal, if you will. They run the world. They make the policies. They've paid off the politicians. They have the funds. Look at George Soros having just installed all of these toxic governors and so on in the United States. Prosecutors is the word I was looking for. You have Bill Gates, I think he's the biggest buyer next to China of agricultural farmland.
Yeah, why is he doing that?
So
why is the same guy telling us what vaccines to take also buying our farmland? I know that is correlated somehow.
The World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, Tavistock, ad infinitum, they are ready for the Great Reset, also known as the United Nations Agenda 21. It's coming.
You know, I live for a good cocktail moment. I'm a cocktail girl, or should I say cocktail squirrel. I'm not saying it's good to go and get hammered constantly, but there is just something magical about a fall apple cider margarita. Stop it now. I know. Add a little cinnamon stick in there, brown sugar on the rim. I'm down bad. Here's a fun little fact I recently learned. If you can plan when you're going out for a couple drinks with the squirrels, do it around ovulation. Your hormones are primed then, and you could actually handle alcohol better. Girl science! I wish I would have known this at the Sam Hunt concert the other night. Look, the more I learn about our bodies and cycles as women, the more I want to scream from the rooftop that women have got to be using organic menstrual products or cups. Garnu is one of the brands that I've switched to in the last year that gets me so hype. This tampon brand is not only fighting for women by donating to anti-human trafficking efforts in Nepal, their products are made with 100% organic cotton, no chlorine, no dyes, and no fragrances ever. Garnu tampons ship right to your home. They refuse to support Planned Parenthood or other leftist one world government initiatives, and instead uses your money towards making healthier products for real women and ending human trafficking. I could not love them more if I tried. Go to garnu.com and use code ALEX for 15% off. That's GARNUU.com with code ALEX for 15% off, or click the link in the description.
We are so under their thumb. They're not shy about this.
Can you read that
They're
for us?
throwing this in your face. Well, the mission of the UN Agenda 21, which is also part of the Great Reset of Klaus Schwab and that whole cabal, one world government, okay, we all heard that, one world cashless currency, one world central bank, one world military, the end of national sovereignty, the end of all privately owned property, the end of the family unit, depopulation, control of population, mandatory multiple vaccines, universal basic income, microchip society for purchasing, travel tracking, and controlling implementation of the world's social credit system like China has now. It's like you have to prove your worth or else you're not worth having around. Trillions of appliances hooked up into the 5G monitoring system. 5G is toxic, which we will talk about hopefully today. And it's part of the game. Government-raised children, government-owned and controlled schools, the end of private transportation, all businesses owned by government corporation, restriction of non-essential air travel. I'm almost done.
This is almost all of these have happened.
To some extent, absolutely. Human beings concentrated into human settlement zones, I mean, like right out of George Orwell, 1984, but 10 times worse. The end of irrigation, the end of private farms and grazing of livestock.
Why is it important that we don't own our own farms? Why is it important to the Great Reset agenda?
Because they can determine that, hey, we're only making GMO foods these days. Okay? You can't do biodynamic farming. That's not, you don't own your farm anymore. The end of private farms, the end of a single-family home, restricted land use that serves human needs, and a ban of natural and non-synthetic drugs and naturopathic medicine.
And they hate that. They hate functional medicine. They hate naturopathic medicine.
This is it. This is being proclaimed. This isn't some Orwellian dream of the cabal. This is what they're telling you.
Do you trust Elon Musk?
No.
Why not?
No one's ever connected me with Elon Musk. And I'm not sure where Elon Musk stands on it all. I mean, he seems like certainly a very, very intelligent and practical person. But, who knows what influences him? I mean, he's making no problem there, billions of dollars selling to our government, missiles and space technology.
Do you think that we will have another virus unleashed and weaponized against us like COVID?
Yes.
In our lifetime?
Yes.
What should people do next time this happens?
To resist it, it will depend upon people who are very knowledgeable, because it has been achieved with the COVID, the COVID coronavirus mega health effects, and it's gone to many levels, right? And it's not just a viral bacteria; it's graphene oxide, graphene hydroxide, things that can reassemble in your body. The technology is 100 times more advanced than any of us in this room are exposed to. Okay? 100 times. We don't even have a clue. We know graphene self-assembles. You have no idea how advanced it is.
Are you talking about what was in the vaccine itself, potentially?
Yeah, like graphene oxide, graphene hydroxide. I mean, I've become very, very aware of what it's capable of doing. I have all the reports. I have thousands of reports on what these things do. We are finding like reports from 1972 of the mention of the use of the snake venom in vaccines, okay, as a means to disable the person. Now, you remember when mercury was used in the form of something called thimerosal to go in vaccines? Because it would disable temporarily your neurological system with toxic effects, of course, to allow the vaccine to take hold. And then somebody brought that to light, thimerosal, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and we don't use thimerosal anymore.
Do you think that it is crucial for young people to try to only procreate with people who did not get the COVID vaccine?
I am not qualified to answer such an important question.
My gut tells me to try to look for a partner one day that has not gotten it.
Yes, but as we are finding out that the effects of the vaccine go far and deep into the rest of the population that has never been vaccinated.
But why?
Remember, I have suffered. I mean, I came like minutes from death as a result of myocarditis. But I never had a vaccine. I never even tested positive for COVID. But I became deathly ill. I was leading a very, very extraordinarily healthy life a year and a quarter ago.
Because why? Because you think that just being around people that decided to get it is affecting us?
Well proven. Oh, yeah, because it's forget the virus. It's not the virus that's doing the damage. It's the things that are added to the virus, okay? It's the snake venom that is in there that disables certain things. And you see that one of the things that you heard spike proteins, of course, that attach to the cell and deliver the virus and other things. But, people have discovered that nicotine interferes with that reaction. Okay? That's like the latest nutrient that's used to fight the effects of COVID.
And everyone's vaping.
But they could never figure out when COVID started, because it fundamentally starts as a respiratory disease. Doctors, normal thinking doctors, that, oh my God, it's a respiratory disease. Smokers are going to be dying like flies. But they weren't. They weren't even going into the hospital. And then a group of doctors put all this together and says, oh my God, it's in the literature already that nicotine interferes with the spike protein.
My audience just found out for the first time what EMFs even are. And I had a guest on. She's a tech wellness expert. That's her entire thing. Her name is August Bryce. And she was saying that she believes Wi-Fi is the new secondhand smoke. Would you agree?
Only 10 times worse. It's high energy microwave communication frequencies given off by antennas, okay? In the 1940s and 50s, the Russians were leading the radar technology by far, and it was putting the United States at risk. So we put a lot of money into radar. But at the same time, we wanted to say, we're putting in all this high-power radar. We need to find out how it's affecting the soldiers who are using it, okay? When they realized how dangerous it was, everything went to top secret. No disclosure of the results. And then they said, how are we going to just tell people, oh, there's no results? So they said, we're going to make something up. We're going to rate how dangerous something is in how much it heats a body part. Because a microwave oven, okay, if you put your hand in there, door open or door closed, it's going to heat your hand. So they used that as the measure. And it passed. They said, "Oh, this amount of temperature from a cell phone is acceptable." It raised it 1 degree, keeping it on your ear for 5 minutes, right? But they completely ignored the other cellular effects.
Why?
Because they didn't want us to know. They had the whole plan. 5G was going to make not only billionaires, but they realized it was a way to control people. Just like they realized that virus was a way to control the population, and 5G is a way to control the population. So they said, forget it. Oh, your cell phone doesn't heat your head. But that's not even it. The heating of the head isn't the problem. It's the cellular effects. And there's books written on this, books this big. Take the name Arthur Furstenberg. He's one of the original guys. He sounds the alarm. He's brilliant. He sounds the alarm on 5G. And then there's 20 other authors. Nick Pinault is another one who teaches this every week in a course on 5G. This is dangerous stuff.
What is the first 5G item we need to be throwing out?
The cell tower.
Okay, but then how do we survive? Like, what kind of cell phone are we supposed to use? What do you use?
I use a cell phone too. I think I manage it as best I can. Okay. I do all the right things, keeping it away from me and keeping a distance and never putting it on my ear. And
so
blah,
you
blah,
never
blah.
should talk on the phone on your ear.
Never.
You should always have it on speakerphone.
Yes. Distance is your friend.
And we know, my audience knows, no Bluetooth ever.
No Bluetooth ever. No Bluetooth on your ear. Nothing beamed to your head. Okay. I have a friend, a young woman like yourself from Korea, and she was in Korea and she came to the United States in Los Angeles, got an apartment in Hollywood, and she called me up and said, "Robert, I don't feel like me anymore." I'm going, "Really? What's going on?" I mean, she's like 31 years old. "Robert, what do you think it is? I can't make decisions. I was always so Liz. I'm a yoga teacher, but I can't even get my act together somehow." I said, "Tell me your address." And I went on the website, and I went on the antenna, the antenna disclosure website, put her address in.
She was living by a 5G tower.
By 273 antennas in North Hollywood within 3 miles of her. 273.
So if you are experiencing unexplainable health problems, it is worth it to look up and see how close you are to certain towers.
Absolutely. Like numero uno.
And what is the website people can go to check?
You can just, Google where are cell phone antennas in my neighborhood type of thing. Do you remember the Georgia Guidestones?
I have no idea what that is.
The Georgia Guidestones were 10 monolithic, meaning think Stonehenge, okay? Monolithic granite stones erected in a obscure cow pasture in Georgia. They appeared in 1983, the Georgia Guidestones, had messages for humanity in an obscure pasture. And the messages were in 10 languages. Everything, I think, from Sanskrit to Chinese to Russian to English, you name it. Latin.
What did they say?
Each one said the same thing, but in the language. And the Guidestones were, think the 10 Commandments. Yeah, there were some good things. I think some, you can see this on Wikipedia. Be just to your fellow man, a couple of those. But the first statement on all Guidestones is that the earth shall be inhabited by no more than 500 million people. Can you imagine? Someone going to the trouble, someone infinitely wealthy, infinitely influential, had these paid for, made, carved, chiseled in precisely, as good as it can be done. The earth shall be inhabited by no more than 500 million people. That thinking has been around and has been directing the cabal. And this great reset, since it was erected in 83, that was the message someone was giving us already. Now, just about 5 months ago, somebody blew up, exploded it hit the news. And then I think the United States military came in and destroyed them all. No, nobody talks about it anymore. They don't want you to know about the Georgia Guidestones. But, I know the background of it. I cannot disclose it. And it's powerful people of the world.
In one sentence, what is your last piece of advice for somebody to improve their health?
Make sure that your body nutritionally has the entire periodic table of the elements available to your body fluids and therefore your cells for the rest of your life. Then I would probably start going to, you have to get out of the EMF field. And think, it hurts me to know I'm living in that field. I tell everybody, if you're really, Robert, what really should I do? Because I have the resources to do anything. Get out of here. Okay? Get out.
Robert Slovak, it has been an honor. Thank you for coming on the Spillover.
You are very welcome, and I enjoyed it immensely. Damn, that was good.
This episode was truly for the health and wellness nerds like me. So if you made it through, I applaud you. I did some major updates after this episode in terms of my water and making sure that I'm giving my body the minerals it needs. So this stuff can get pricey, so I got Robert's company, Water and Wellness, to give us a fire discount on my favorite products that he talked about on this episode, including a water filter. So hang on, let me tell you, get a pen and paper or your notes app ready, write this down. I know that Robert explained all of this, but after a long episode, some things you might forget, and so I just want to break this down again in my own words. So after this episode, I got an AquaTrue from waterandwellness.com, which is Robert's website, to order all things water and mineral related. You could spend hours on this website trying different wellness products that are life-changing, okay? But this is what I have used, why I like them, and what we're going to get a discount on today. I cannot stress enough the little Quinton, isotonic, and hypertonic capsules of marine plasma he talked about. One of them tastes like a few drops of salty water. One tastes like regular water. You break off the little tab of this little glass nodule, and it's one little sip every morning first thing. When you are starting using these, always begin with isotonic for a month to restore the bioterrain. Most people keep both on hand. Hypertonic for daily needs like getting magnesium intake. The hypertonic has 4 times the magnesium concentration of what's in the blood. So then I will take the isotonic for specialized situations that may arise, like if I'm feeling sick or I'm feeling anxious or super emotionally spent, I'm taking an isotonic capsule. All of this, don't worry, is broken down on waterandwellness.com in the product description. With code SPILLOVER, you will get 10% off all products on waterandwellness.com. The other thing I got, which has been on my personal wish list for years, is the AquaTrue reverse osmosis water filtration system that sits right on your kitchen counter. It comes with 1 glass carafe, but you can order 2 if you want to double your capacity. I'm a single girl living on my own, so I only need 1 glass carafe. I don't need like 100 of these taking up room in my fridge. But if you have a big family or you just drink a ton of water, get 2. They're like $30 each or something. I could not believe how clear and perfect this water was. I was horrified after drinking a glass of this, of what I had been drinking for years. With just what I was using was that little filtration system that, is standard on your fridge. That doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. You might as well just drink straight out of the sink. The AquaTrue is a 4-stage reverse osmosis filter system that substantially reduces virtually all toxic chemicals out of your tap water. So it features a mechanical pre-filter that removes sediment and cloudiness from water. It has an activated carbon pre-filter that removes chlorine and chloramines, a high-efficient reverse osmosis filter that removes toxic inorganic contaminants, including lead, and chromium-6, and an activated coconut shell carbon VOC filter, which removes toxic organic chemicals and ensures great tasting water. Here is the best deal that Water and Wellness is giving us. Like I said, you can get 10% off today, all single products with code SPILLOVER on their website, or they are offering a Spillover exclusive bundle. This is what I recommend. You will get 1 AquaTrue, 1 box of hypertonic marine plasma, and 1 box of isotonic marine plasma, which is a $549 value for $499. And that Spillover exclusive bundle, you don't need a code for. You can just click, I want the bundle. It would just be $499. So code SPILLOVER is for 10% off a single product on waterandwellness.com, or you can get the AquaTrue, hypertonic, and isotonic for $499. All of this info on codes and links will be in the show notes. Next week on the Spillover, we are taking a hard right into pop culture territory. I am interviewing someone in the country music and Nashville scene with tea to spill, and they delivered. They had way more to say than I was even expecting. If you want insight into Maren Morris leaving country, if Theo Vaughn's personality is an act or if it's real, and the TikTok star people close to Morgan Wallen want him to date. This episode has the entertainment news, gossip, drama, and emotional ups and downs that you live for as a pop culture girly. If you learned something new today, please leave a 5-star review. The Spillover is back next Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. And also, you have the option to watch every interview on the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel. Subscribe there. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you, mean it. Bye.